Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Governor Abbott, Ambassador Sandhu, Consul General Mahajan, distinguished members of the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce, and friends. Thank you so much for joining us for today's discussion on the Texas-India partnership. We want to thank Governor Abbott and his team, as well as Consul General Mahajan and his team, for helping us to put this meaningful conversation together. I also want to thank U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce members Satish Gupta, Anurag Jain, and Raj Kalyander, as well as Ashok Mago and Brent Ryan for joining us for our panel discussion on the Texas-India partnership from the business perspective. This relationship could not be more meaningful, and this discussion could not come at a more important time. Businesses are experiencing significant disruption as a result of COVID-19. And we also learned earlier this year that for CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, trade tensions are their #1 concern. So this is an extraordinarily ripe discussion, and we want to thank all of you for joining us for this conversation. Welcoming all of you on behalf of the Chamber is U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce Chairman, Raj Kalyander. Raj is the managing partner and a private wealth advisor with Merrill Lynch. He holds a degree in economics and finance from the University of Texas at Dallas, as well as a graduate degree with an executive advanced program with Wharton Business School. Raj is very philanthropic, and he's philanthropic both with his time and his money. Currently, he serves as the chairman of the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce. He also sits on the Salvation Army board and the board of Pratham USA, as well as a number of other organizations. Raj, thank you so much for your leadership, and I'm handing it over to you. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Good afternoon, Governor Abbott, Governor Sandhu, Ambassador Sandhu, Consul General Mahajan, esteemed members of the Chamber and the community. On behalf of the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce, DFW, I want to welcome all of you to today's program. Texas and India have had a long relationship over the years. Indian Americans started arriving in Texas in the mid-1960s. Thanks in part to the growing Indian American community, with nearly 500,000 residents in Texas, our ties to India have continued to strengthen and evolve. Seeing the explosive growth and opportunities to create meaningful business connections between the US and in India, in 1999, a group of highly successful Indian American business leaders from the DFW area joined together to form what we now know as the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce. Over the last 20 years, the Chamber has grown into a successful economic powerhouse with nearly 200 member companies. Although DFW is only the 4th largest metropolitan area in the United States, it is home to the largest number of Fortune 500 companies anywhere in the country. And we're very proud to call some of these companies our members. Also today, providing welcoming remarks this afternoon, Consul General Aseem Mahajan on behalf of the Consul General of India, Houston, and India's mission to the United States. Earlier this year, Consul General Aseem Mahajan joined us as the Consul General of India in Houston. He joined the Indian service in 1998. In his earlier diplomatic assignments, he served as the Deputy High Commissioner in India's mission in Malaysia and Bangladesh, as well as the Consul General of India in Osaka, Japan. In addition to his international assignments, Mr. Mahajan has also served in various capacities within the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. Prior to being assumed in his current role as Consul General of India in Houston, he was the Ambassador of India to the WTO in Geneva. We're truly honored and fortunate to have Consul General Mahajan as our Consul General in Houston. Following the Consul General's remarks, our Chamber's founding chairman, Padma Shri awardee Ashok Mago, will introduce Governor Greg Abbott. With that, I will now pass this over to Consul General Mahajan.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you for the introduction. And it is my privilege to welcome Governor Abbott of Texas, our ambassador from Washington, and all of you joining us today for this dialogue on India-Texas partnership. Governor, I had the good opportunity of meeting you briefly when I arrived from Geneva in Austin in early January. I wish to thank you personally, Governor, for all the support being extended to us during this pandemic, for supporting the community and for activities of the consulate. Governor, you are a strong supporter of strengthening India-US strategic partnership, and you're working closely with us on many initiatives. You also had a substantive visit to India in 2018, in which you visited several cities and also interacted and met our Prime Minister Modi and many other political leaders and business leaders. Your visit has led to substantive growth of Indian companies and investments in Texas, and also increased people-to-people contact and deepening of our relationship. We are also joined by our Ambassador Taranjit Singh Sandhu, who is one of our most distinguished Indian diplomats with a career spanning over 30 years, having held key positions in the Ministry of External Affairs and also in India's missions abroad. He is also one of the Indian diplomats who has the richest experience on Indo-US relations, having served twice earlier in Washington and also in the permanent mission of India to the United Nations in New York. Prior to coming to Washington, he was our High Commissioner in Sri Lanka. As all of you know, India and Texas share a very multifaceted and deep partnership. We are also blessed with a very vibrant Indo-American community here, who are our close partners to deepen and strengthen these ties. I am happy to report to all of you that as per the Confederation of Indian Industries recent report, Texas ranks as the state which is attracting the highest number of Indian companies with an investment of $9.5 billion and having created more than 17,500 jobs in Texas. So with this, we look forward to this very important conversation between Governor Abbott and Ambassador Sandhu to share their views and to guide us on our future roadmap and for the various initiatives we can take together to further deepen and strengthen the comprehensive strategic partnership between India and United States. So thank you, and once again I welcome all of you, and we look forward to this very meaningful dialogue. Over to you, Ashokji.
Thank you, Consul General Mahajan. Good afternoon, everybody. Governor Abbott, it's always an honor to introduce you. You are a friend of the Indian American community in India. Governor Greg Abbott is currently the 48th governor of the state of Texas. Under Governor Abbott's strong leadership and careful stewardship, Texas is ranked the 10th largest economy in the world. That means we are ahead of Russia. The Lone Star State leads the nation in job creation and recently reached record low unemployment. Landmark legislations passed in the recent 86th legislative session included all of Governor Abbott's priorities to address the state's most pressing issues to make Texas freer, stronger, and safer. Before his election in 2014, Greg Abbott was the 50th and the longest serving Attorney General of Texas. He also previously served as Justice on the Texas Supreme Court and as a state district judge in Harris County. Governor Abbott's vision for stronger Texas of tomorrow is focused on creating more economic opportunities, elevating our education system, building transportation infrastructure needed to keep the economy growing, and securing the Texas border in the face of federal inaction. Governor Abbott is the first Texas governor to take a trade delegation to India. There he met many business and political leaders and had more than an hour meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His visit to India resulted into substantial investments by the Indian companies. He is also the first governor to start celebrating Diwali at the mansion. Governor Abbott was born in Wichita Falls and raised in Duncanville. After graduating from the University of Texas at Austin, he earned a law degree from Vanderbilt University Law School. Shortly after graduating from law school, He was partially paralyzed by a falling tree while jogging. Now I invite Governor Abbott to deliver his remarks. Governor Abbott, please.
Well, thank you, AK, and thank you for your friendship. And I'm honored to once again join together with the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce. I've had the opportunity, as you all know, to speak with you all as a group in the past. I look forward to us gathering together once again in person sometime soon once we get this pandemic behind us. I do want to thank both the Consul General and the Ambassador for taking the time to be a part of this. It's always a pleasure to get to work with them. But it's a keen pleasure, as all of you all know, because I know most everybody on this call already. And it's been an honor to be able to work with you all. I would say that one of the highlights of my service as governor was the trip that I did take to India. And it was an eye-opening trip to get to see the relationship between Texas and India in action, and also getting to see the incredible opportunity that India provides, not just for its own country, but what it provides for the world and what it provides for economic interactions between Texas and India. And one of my goals is to see the level of interaction between Texas and India continue to grow. And so even though we have had great success already in bringing a lot of Indian companies to the Dallas area or the Houston area or elsewhere in the state of Texas, our goal is to see that expansion continue, as well as to see trade between Texas and India continue. This is a particularly important time, I would say. You know, even though Texas and India had a good relationship before the pandemic, even though the United States and India had a good relationship before the pandemic, I would say that during and after the pandemic, there's even a greater opportunity to build even stronger ties between Texas and the United States and India. And let me give you this reason. As many people are aware, there were tensions between the United States and China before the pandemic. I would say that the tensions between the US and China have grown even more in the aftermath of the pandemic, in part because a lot of the medicines, a lot of the supplies that were needed to respond to the pandemic were coming from China. And because maybe in part China was having to deal with the pandemic, maybe in part because of other reasons, we were slow in getting the supplies that we had traditionally received from China. As a result, one thing that's happening as we speak is that the United States is working to expand its supply chain across the entire globe. India can be a tremendous partner for the United States and for Texas as we move forward in that supply chain. And so this, again, I think provides a unique and maybe even urgent opportunity for us to work and collaborate together. Then the last thing I will add, and that is that one thing that Texas has truly benefited from, and that is the tremendous number of people coming from India and the Indian community. Again, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston areas where I see the Indian community most prolifically. And I just want you to know how much we appreciate the Indian community in Texas, how much we really benefit from the interaction that we have with the Indian community, and especially the trade opportunities that exist, as well as the shared values that it seems like provide a genuine connection between Texans and the Indian community. And so what I urge everybody on this call is for us to continue our efforts of working collaboratively together as we do things like Zoom, just awaiting the day that hopefully will not be too far down the road where we get to meet in person once again.
Governor Abbott, we are looking forward to have you and Ambassador, both of you in person in Dallas at our annual awards banquet that you had been there before. Before I introduce our next distinguished guest, I do need to add that our First Lady, Cecilia, a former teacher and principal, is the first Hispanic First Lady of Texas. They both have same birthday, November 13th. And I think according to the governor, that was one reason he married her, so that they both can celebrate their birthday together.
So I would never forget her birthday.
Yeah. No, I remember one time the Diwali celebration you hosted at your mansion was on November 13th. And their daughter, Audrey, just recent college graduate. Now it's a great honor and privilege to introduce my friend, His Excellency Ambassador of India to United States of America, Taranjit Singh Sandhu. He is one of the most experienced Indian diplomats on US affairs. Having served in the Indian mission in Washington, D.C. twice earlier, he was Deputy Chief of Mission at the Embassy from July 2013 to January 2017. Earlier, he served as First Secretary. Then from 1997 to 2000, he has also been at the Permanent Mission of India to United Nations, New York from July 2005 to February 2009. Prior to his current assignment in Washington, D.C., Ambassador Sandhu was High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka from January 2017 to January 2020. He had also served as the High Commission of India in Colombo earlier as the head of political wing from December 2000 to September 2004. Ambassador Sandhu was Consul General of India in Frankfurt from September 2011 to July 2013. He has worked in the Ministry of External Affairs in various capacities as Joint Secretary from March 2009 to August 2011. In a distinguished career spanning over 30 years in Indian Foreign Service since 1988, Ambassador Sandhu started his diplomatic career from the former Soviet Union, where he worked as Third Secretary, Second Secretary in the Indian Mission from 1990 to 1992. Following the breakup of Soviet Union, he was sent to open a new embassy in Ukraine. He served as the head of political and administration wings in Indian Embassy in Kyiv from 1992 to 1994. Born on 23rd January 1963, Ambassador Sandhu is a graduate of St. Stephen's College, Delhi. He pursued a master's degree in international relations at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Ambassador Sandhu is married to Mrs. Rina Sandhu, who is Ambassador of India to Italy. They had 2 children. His interests include books, movies, and outdoor sports. Ambassador Sandhu assumed charge as Ambassador to the United States on February 3rd, 2020. Ambassador Sandhu, now I invite you to deliver your remarks. Ambassador Sandhu, please.
Thank you, Mago Saab. Governor Abbott, it's a pleasure to interact with you today. I would have liked to meet in Texas, but COVID-19 has upended our plans. You are a great friend of India and have always been a supporter of the India-US partnership. We deeply appreciate your friendship. A few days from now, United States will be celebrating 244 years of the Declaration of Independence. I extend greetings to you. As the world's largest and oldest democracies, India and United States are natural allies. The shared values of democracy, freedom, rule of law are enshrined in our respective constitutions. We, the people, those powerful words, stand at the beginning of both our constitutions, a clear sign that sovereignty comes from the people and returns to them. These shared values are at the core of our relationship. Texas occupies a special place in the India-US partnership. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a historic visit to Texas in September last year, and Houston, which hosted the Howdy Modi event, occupies a special place in his heart. Earlier this year in February, President Trump was welcomed by thousands of Indians in the city of Ahmedabad. The love and affection of the people of India for United States, its characteristic of the people-centric nature of our relationship. President Trump's visit was highly successful and upgraded our relationship to a comprehensive global strategic partnership. There is growing convergence in our strategic vision. The India-US partnership covers every facet of human activity. There is a growing defense, security, and counterterrorism engagement between our countries. The Indo-Pacific is emerging as an important area for cooperation. Defense has emerged as an important pillar of our partnership. India was designated as major defense partner by the United States in 2016. This is facilitating sharing of technology with India and encouraging greater cooperation in co-production and co-development of defense technologies. Our defense trade has touched $21 billion. Governor, the relationship with Texas and India is special. Texas is home to a vibrant Indian diaspora. You have made the Indian community feel at home by celebrating Diwali with them and welcoming them in your state. Indian Americans occupy prominent positions in all major professions. As doctors and health workers, they have been at the front lines of the fight against COVID. Indian Americans own businesses and organizations have been supporting their local communities by manufacturing and supplying PPEs during the crisis. Indian STEM graduates and IT professionals working in tech companies have been driving the innovation ecosystem of the United States. Indian students in Texas and United States bring talent to this country, and many of them return to India and become the bridge between United States and India. Texas is also home to the largest number of Indian companies in the United States, which bring $9.5 billion in investment and have created 17,500 jobs. I thank you for the support that you have extended to Indian companies. 22 Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Texas have their presence in the Indian market. The bilateral trade between Texas and India grew by 40% from 2018 to 2019. The India-US bilateral trade crossed $150 billion in 2019. There is a tremendous potential in our economic partnership, and under your leadership, we can take it to new heights. Energy has become an important pillar of our strategic partnership. Texas, as the energy hub of the United States and the world, is at the heart of our energy partnership. In 2016, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump decided to elevate our energy relationship to a strategic partnership. India's energy needs are growing as we grow and develop our economy. We import 80% of our crude oil. We are the fourth largest importers of natural gas, from $0 to $10 billion last year. The India-US energy partnership has grown in just a few years. Governor, the COVID-19 pandemic is an unprecedented challenge for all the humanity. You have been leading your state in the fight against COVID-19. India, a country of 1.3 billion people, also confronts a unique set of challenges due to the pandemic. We are also a federal polity like the United States. Our Prime Minister has been closely consulting with the chief ministers and governors in our national response against the pandemic. The health crisis has also brought in an economic crisis of an unprecedented scale. We will have to contend with the reality of a contracting global economy. Our leadership has emphasized the importance of international cooperation for dealing with the pandemic. India is the world's largest producer of generic medicines. We have supplied essential medicines and equipment to hundreds of countries across the world, and in particular, we were very happy to supply the United States. India has been a reliable partner during the crisis and kept the supply linkages open. India has a long-standing partnership with the United States in health and medical sciences. There are 3 ongoing collaborations between Indian companies and US institutions and companies in co-development of the vaccine. 7 Indian companies have signed agreements with Gilead Sciences to manufacture remdesivir and supply to 127 other countries. We have been exchanging information and expertise on a real-time basis. Our partnership in the health has the potential to have a positive global impact. The benefits of our collaboration can reach the entire world. We look to expand cooperation in science and technology, our knowledge partnership, and deepen our relationship. Governor, I thank you for your time today. I look forward to working with you to strengthen our partnership further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador Sandhu. Governor Abbott, I don't know if I have time even for one question.
Sure.
Seems like we are. Can I throw one question?
Please.
Trade and investment ties are an important component of the US-India relationship, as well as the Texas-India partnership. In your view, what are the priorities and focus sectors to increase trade in the coming years? And
Well, there are several areas. One that the ambassador brought up, and that is a key area that Texas is prolific in, and India needs a lot of, and that is energy. And actually, when I was in the office of Prime Minister Modi, we talked about that energy and the delivery from Texas to India, both of oil as well as natural gas. And when you look at the future of India, it's going to be a country that will have an extremely vibrant and fast-growing economy that can benefit from cheap energy that Texas will be able to continue to produce and ship. And so there will be a lasting relationship there. But also the ambassador brought up another area that's very, very important, and that is the medical supply chain. And it's essential that the United States and Texas have access to that medical supply chain. We have learned that more powerfully now than we have ever known it. And so being able to maintain that. And then there's so many other areas. I did have the opportunity to spend part of my time in India and Bangalore and get to see the massive technology sector in the Bangalore area. And there are interconnections between some of the companies that do business there and some companies that do business in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so maintaining the technology sector relationship between Texas and India is very important, as well as textiles. I know that there are some people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, some Indians who are very heavily involved in the cotton sector, for example. And so it's almost endless what we can do working together. But I think the essential thing is, of all these different strategies and more, is the necessity for us to work together. As the ambassador pointed out, we're the 2 leading democracies in the world. And we're kind of on the opposite sides of the world. And so we are, in a way, provide an international balance globally for democracy, for the economies that we provide. And so we are the United States and India are 2 of the most prolific essential countries to ensure global peace and global prosperity. And so by us working together, I think it's going to be good, not just for our 2 countries, but good for the entire globe.
Ambassador Sandhu, your response, please.
Thank you, AK. I totally endorse the comments of the governor. I think energy is one very, very critical sector for India, given our large population and our energy requirements. So I know that all of you already know so much into it, so I don't want to dwell too much into it. But I do want to mention that the United States, and in particular Texas, has played a very significant role in making India more energy balanced. Our dependence on one particular area, thanks to Texas and United States, is much more robust today. So I would certainly put a lot of emphasis on that, and that's one relationship which I think it's only going to go up and up. And as I mentioned, just about 2.5, 3 years ago, it was $0, and today it's 10 billion. So that's one upcoming area which is going to go up and up. And second, as Governor mentioned, and I also earlier brought it out, that because of the COVID and because of a lot of post-COVID scenario, I think cooperation in healthcare and in pharma, in basic research, vaccines, diagnostics, devices, telemedicine, hospital administration, healthcare supplies, expertise, this is a major opportunity for both United States and India, and it carries a huge potential. And I'm sure that this is another area which is going to go big time. Of course, we have limitation of time, so I can't go too much into detail here. But one area I wanted to leave it with Governor, you know, Texas also is a home to a lot of Indian students. Most of them, overwhelming number of them, are in STEM areas. And these kids, they bring real value. And I do understand that there is an overall issue of political issue of immigration, but these kids are very, very different. And as I mentioned, they actually are the future bridges between our two countries. So I do hope that they'll continue to find Texas as a special home, and their talents will be utilized both in fostering a closer relationship between United States and India, and of course between Texas and India. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. You can be assured of that.
Sandhu. Governor, before you leave, Consul General Mahajan wants to say a few words of thanks.
Sure.
Consul General Mahajan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor, for taking out this time despite your busy schedule to join us today. We are really honored by your presence. And so, you know, we have this good fortune of Ambassador joining us from Washington. These are unprecedented times for all of us. And I think a new format of seeing each other and meeting each other and interacting like this. But I think it is a really useful dialogue because it helps us to come closer to exchange ideas and share your thoughts. We are in close touch with your office, with the Economic Partnership Division, with many cities, with many corporations, with many chambers here in Texas. Energy, of course, is one area, but there are other concepts, nodes which we are developing to strengthen our relationship in healthcare, energy, information communication technology, and niche areas where Indian professionals are already there, and Indian professionals bring a lot of wealth and richness to their experience here, and so do Indian companies who are looking forward to coming here. So, Governor, we really look forward for your continued support and guidance, and I look forward to the opportunity of calling on you personally in the near future. I'm sure things will normalize, and we are really eagerly also looking forward to Ambassador Sandhu's visit here to Texas, and obviously when he comes here, we will meet in person, and I really appreciate the wisdom and your thoughts which you have shared with us. Let me assure you, we will take each one of them to a logical conclusion and work on these various initiatives. So thank you again for joining us, and also on behalf of the US India Chamber of Commerce, Dallas, Fort Worth, who have been great partners for us. We are really thankful for them for putting all this together. So thank you again, Governor.
Thank you.
Governor. Hope to see you in Dallas.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to it. Look forward to seeing you in person real soon. Thank you all so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.
Be safe out there.
Thank you,
And
sir.
we'll see you in person really soon.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
So this concludes the first part of our program today. We will go ahead and move into the second portion of our program, our business discussion. So if Consul General Mahajan, if you'd like to kick
Yes.
off our second session, we'll move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Neil, taking opportunity of Ambassador's presence because he has a very busy schedule. We have all of us here today. In the second part, as we all agreed to and we discussed, we want to have a free meeting of ideas and brainstorming and sharing of thoughts together to give concrete shape to our ideas and our initiatives. As I mentioned a bit earlier, we are already in close touch with the Chamber and to build these various events and partnership together, and also to deepen our relationship in areas like information communication technology, where Dallas has a lot of professionals in financial technology, in aerospace, in defense, and not just our regular areas we are working. We are joined today by Mr. Satish Gupta, who is from oil and gas, and Anurag, who is a venture capitalist and he ventures into many areas, and Ryan, who is a taxation expert, and of course the format as we have agreed to after these interventions, we will look to Ambassador's guidance, and Ambassador of course has mentioned earlier, as Mr. Mago also mentioned, he's going to come here to Texas in the near future, and then of course we will have a much larger interaction in person with the chamber and build on all these ideas. So with that, I pass it on to you to start our dialogue for the second session.
Thank you, Consul General Mahajan. Our first panelist is Satish Gupta. He is the founder of SB International. His company is a global supplier of prime steel and metal products in domestic and international markets. It is also the largest international product supplier and processor of pipe and tubing for oil and gas drilling activities. Mr. Gupta founded the Gupta Agarwal Charitable Foundation to support education, public health, medical research, and the promotion of diversity and cultural awareness. He has also been a key supporter of two nonprofit healthcare organizations, providing the medical care and cancer treatment to uninsured adults in DFW Metroplex. Since 2003, University of Dallas, where he and his wife did their MBA, now have Satish and Yasmin Gupta School of Business. Baylor Hospital in Plano also has Satish and Yasmin Gupta Heart Center. They are known for starting Diwali Mela, which is attended by between 25,000–30,000 individuals every year. Now I invite Satish Gupta to share his thoughts about his business here, overseas, before and after the pandemic. Satish Gupta, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, AK. Thank you very much, Consul General. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sandhu. Good to see you all and the other panelists as well as Neil. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. First of all, I'd like to thank governors. Such a busy schedule. In spite of all that, he's been very kind and nice to get on and give his view, as well as Ambassador. Thank you very much. My company basically involves in, we have 8 different business, which is involved with steel manufacturing, primarily oil and gas industries, high-end pipe and tubing, which is used in all type of oil, gas productions and exploration. So we are very interested in the energy side of the business. We've been involved in this. I started the company back in 1981, so it's almost been 40 years, and came to Dallas in 1979. So Texas is my home. So I've spent more time in Texas than anywhere else, particularly in Dallas. So thank you very much. Now, with the current situation, as we all know, because of the traveling has been impacted with this COVID-19 in very negative way. Therefore, the demand for oil and gas and the prices are historically low at this moment. which has cut down the drilling activities in United States by 60 to 70%, which has impacted our business a great deal of it. But in spite of all that, I see a great deal of opportunity during this time for India and Texas and United States. The way I see it here, India, as the ambassador pointed out, imports 80% of their need for the oil, whereas United States now is producing almost like a 10 million barrel of the oil, and which is looking for a home overseas. So this is a great opportunity for India to invest in a oil and gas exploration and production so that they can ensure the long-term supply of this cheaper oil and gas, because right now the prices are very low and the costing or buying these assets are also has come down substantially. So we think there is a lot of opportunity of three-way trade, which can be discussed with the Trump administration and also with the governor in one way by investing into the Texas oil and gas field, and also asking the US oil and gas company to invest in infrastructure for receiving terminal, storage capacity, and refinery in India. But also a third way this can be dealt, in my opinion, because right now both the economies are hurting very badly, the US as well as the Indian economy, because of the COVID-19. And they are looking some way to restart the economy in both ways. Whereas we have a lot of oil and gas production where India needs the basic infrastructure. And also the other area which I think can be discussed and negotiated with this current administration, current time frame, H-1B visa, because with this investment in the United States, maybe a certain quota can be allowed by India, or 100,000 or 200,000 for making these investment in the United States. So I really feel there is a great deal of opportunity during this time on the high level, and we'll be happy to participate in those discussions, trying to make it maybe a bilateral trade between United States, Texas, as well as India. So we see a lot of opportunity going forward in those areas. Energy, which is 80% of our demand comes from overseas, and that right now is 5 million barrel a day, which is going to increase to 10 million barrel a day by 2040. So the demand for the imported oil to India is going to only increase, not decrease. So this could be a very wonderful time where the both countries needs each other economically and democratically and friendly basis. So that's my thought on this.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you. Our next speaker is Anurag Jain. Anurag serves as the chairman of Access Healthcare, a revenue cycle management services company. He is also managing partner of Pro Jain LP, a private investment organization providing early stage capital to high growth technology oriented companies. Mr. Jain is on the board of East-West Institute, which is a global think and do tank that devises innovative solutions to pressing security concerns and mobilizes networks of individuals, institutions, and nations to implement these solutions. He is also the chair of board of North Texas Food Bank. Anurag has contributed to many charities, particularly North Texas Food Bank and Akshay Patra. He has over 12,000 employees in India. Now I call on Anurag Jain to share his thoughts.
Thank you. Ambassador, good to see you. Consul General Aseem, always good to see you as well. And AK, thank you for this opportunity. You know, a lot has been said in the last few minutes about Texas and India, why it's a strong partnership, why it's a long partnership, why it's been a growing partnership. I want us to go back to history for a minute to say, why did it get started? The first tech companies in India were Rockwell Collins and TI that came out of Dallas, Texas. Ross Perot, who was my mentor and I started working with him many, many years ago, was the first guy to look into India for IT services. In fact, I would be as aggressive to say the whole IT services page that has really taken off now started with Rossborough going to India 30 or 40 years ago. So the history of just these countries being connected, these locations being connected has been there for very long, as well as the fact that Texas had this fund which invested in over 18 Indian companies and brought them here, giving them over $93 million. So history is a good measure to see why things will do. The second most important factor is culture. Now, history is not enough. The culture between Texas and India is very similar. The average Texan and the average Indian is an entrepreneur. And they both cultures believe in innovation. So you can see that there's a cultural connect, which makes this sort of economic relations more enduring. The third thing is I think our futures are intertwined as well, but I want to come back and talk about that later. They're tech intertwined. I want to stop and talk a little bit about my businesses and the pandemic. So I really have two businesses. One is a healthcare outsourcing company, and the second one is a venture capital company. Let's talk about the healthcare outsourcing company. Our 12,000 people in India and Philippines and in Talis are in 15 different offices. And the reason they're in 15 different offices is that if there was a problem in one location, we could move people to the other location. Never in our wildest dreams had we thought about all 15 locations being offline at the same time and having to work from home. Now, so we were contented in 48 hours, we had to move 12,000 people to work from home. Only 13% of our people had broadband connections or computers in their house. So now we had this gigantic exercise of packing up these computers, getting it through to people's homes, some who lived in villages, didn't have proper electricity connections, and most of them didn't have broadband connections. We bought 5,000 data cards from Reliance in 48 hours. Can you imagine having 5,000 prepaid data cards and managing all of that stuff, all within 48 hours? By the way, we didn't have enough computers because our computers are used 1 to 2 people. So we actually had to go to Lenovo, who had computers in a godown, but didn't have access to them because there was curfew on the streets. And we found a way around the curfew and picked up those computers and brought them to our people. So in 48 hours, we went from working in an office to working 12,000 people working at home with broadband connections and reinvented the way these people work as well. We had to change the org structure to make this process work. All happened because the teams in Texas and the teams of India, being entrepreneurial, got together, countless phone calls 24/7, and came up with that process. Within 6 days, we were 90% up and running in probably the most important area. Remember, if we don't function, healthcare companies don't get paid and physicians go out of business. That's not something we want in this space. On the venture capital side, what I found is that 2008, 2009, when there was a recession, tech companies were hit really badly. In this recession, or the starting of a depression, or whatever you might call it, tech companies have flourished. And it shows that there is a new trend coming where all the different trends that we had before are getting accelerated. And tech is now becoming that sort of lever for acceleration. So none of our companies, and we invested in 42 companies, no company was completely taken out. In 2008, 2009, we saw a whole bunch of companies getting wiped out. In this time, we saw none of our companies getting wiped out. Where they had some connection to consumers, they were hit a little bit, but the companies didn't disappear because of the way the government handled it, because of the fact that it was tech-led. So we see in front of us a huge tech revolution coming out. People are focused on automation. They're focused on AI. They're focused on changing the way they do things. And COVID is forcing and accelerating the change that was already happening. So all of that is great, but I want to sort of point out some issues that come out as well as a responsible citizen. I see some, what I call bubbles of disparity being created because of COVID as well. One, I'm at the head of the North Texas Food Bank. We saw, before COVID hit us, 1 in 6 people didn't get enough food. That number is accelerated tremendously. I was at a feeding at Fair Park 4 days ago, where its feeding started at 6:30 in the morning. The first lady got in line at 1:30 at night. So she waited 5 hours. She was desperate to get her $20 box of food. It shows you that the disparity of haves and have-nots is increasing, and we as government and community need to come together and do something about that. The second issue was, now we have nonprofits and we have people that need it, but we had no volunteers. Remember, all nonprofits in the US work on volunteers. So we had to create a whole, another nonprofit that could go hire people that were laid off and pay them a stipend to go work in nonprofit. So they had to come up with innovative solutions very quickly to bridge the gap between people that are not getting paid and people that need the help. Second thing. The third bubble is the most important one that I want to make sure we spend 2 minutes on. I see jobs coming back. COVID will go away at some point in time. The economy, we are doing a good job across both countries to help our economies come back at some point in time, and jobs will come back. But I fear that the kind of jobs that might come back may be slightly different than the jobs that left us, which means there'll be a skill set disparity. And I think as a community of government leaders and business leaders, we need to think about this, find a way to go back and reskill people both in India and in the US. The future jobs will be different than our current jobs, and we have to take people with current jobs that might not exist and start reskilling programs very, very quickly and in very large scale across both our economies. That I think will be the most important thing to remove this bubbles of disparity. The last thing, I don't want to end on a somber note. There's lots of interesting things in India that go back and forth. I think the most exciting export that India has today is not Bollywood, it's cricket. And we're actually bringing cricket to Texas next year. We're forming a major league cricket team that'll be based in Dallas, Texas. That's all I had, AK.
Thank you, Anurag. Our next speaker is Brent Ryan. Brent Ryan is the founder and CEO of Ryan LLC. Ryan LLC is an award-winning global tech services and software provider that provides an integrated suite of federal, state, and local and international tax services on a multi-jurisdiction basis, including tax recovery, consulting, advocacy, compliance, and technology services. Mr. Ryan has been a frequent donor to the University of North Texas and was the first member of UNT Dallas Founders Circle. In April 2019, the Ryan Foundation acted as a benefactor for the West Texas Center, helping the Mental Health and Intellectual Development Disability Center build its new administrative headquarters. Ryan is well known for his charitable contribution. He recently donated $30 million to University of North Texas in Benton, and now there is a G. Brent Ryan College of Business. I'm proud to serve with him as a regent on University of North Texas System Board. Brent, your time starts now.
Thank you, AK. It's a real pleasure to be with you, Ambassador Sandhu and Consul General Mahajan. Thank you for your time. I want to say, first of all, I second our two previous speakers, and that's been very similar to the experience we've had. Our two biggest investments are in Texas and in India. In fact, I was in India back in February, and at a press conference, I had the opportunity to announce that India is now the single largest location that we have as a company out of our 75 locations. So I'm pretty proud of that. And we started the business in 2013 with about 150 employees. Today, we've grown to almost 600 people at our Hyderabad location. But what's important is not just the growth in numbers, but the type of work that we're doing. Because we started out very much, the India team, our India operations was a support team. They were doing basic functions, supporting the rest of the globe. Today, there's been a huge shift in the type of work that we do in India. Today, India is a hub for our technology development. I mean, we're doing things with robotics, RPA, with machine learning and AI, where India is really leading our organization. We're doing very complex, high-level tax work from our India location. And in fact, one of the things I'm most proud of, and if you've ever had any exposure to the U.S. property tax system, you'd be amazed to know that we actually do property tax appeals from India telephonically, and we're very successful with it. So we've seen just a tremendous growth in the type of work we do in India, the technology. We're finding out that in many cases our India team members are adopting the technology faster than our U.S. team members. So it's really become an important center for us. Now, speaking to COVID-19, what an experience for all of us. Certainly it's been a tragedy in many respects, but it's also been a tremendous learning opportunity. We were fortunate. We started remote work in 2008. So since then, we've equipped all of our people with the ability to work from home. We don't have desktop computers. We don't have tower computers. Everybody has an encrypted laptop, and that's how we work. So when the pandemic happened and we saw the shelter-at-home orders go into effect, we had run a BCP test about 2 weeks before in February, when I was actually in India going over this with our team. We only had a handful of people that didn't have broadband access in the Hyderabad location. We fixed that. And frankly, we've had almost no disruption as a result of COVID-19. We've seen our client service continue with very little disruption, and we've learned a ton from it. So we're further investing in our technology stack. We're making sure that all of our people have access to all of the technology. And I think that's one of the big learning opportunities that comes from this. You know, both of the previous speakers called this out. I think that technology is going to continue to be the mega force, the mega trend, you know, for the next decade in India. We see more and more of that happening. And frankly, we need to think about investment. I mean, we need to make sure that we've got the infrastructure. You know, all of the companies need to look at their resilience, from a technology standpoint, because, you know, tomorrow, if this happens again, we know how to deal with it. We've got everything in place. And so whether you have COVID-19 or not, we're looking at a much more efficient way to do business than we've ever had before. And I think that's going to benefit Texas. I think it's going to benefit India in incredible ways. And before I yield my time, let me just say a couple of things, Ambassador, to you. I know you spend a lot of time in D.C. On the India side, you know, if I could wave a magic wand, I'd get busy on banking reform in India. The regulations are too complicated. It's too difficult to move money and goods between the countries. It needs to improve. On the U.S. side, every chance I get to talk to the president or John Cornyn, I talk about high-skilled immigration. This is really handicapping us. The ability to move people back and forth across borders in an efficient way is essential to working as a global team. And we don't have that opportunity because here in the U.S. we can't get our act together from an immigration standpoint, much less a high-skilled immigration standpoint. But that's critical. If we as a society, if we want to take advantage of the opportunities that this technology presents, the opportunities for trade and cooperation between our two countries, we have both sides have absolutely got to look at streamlining regulation, streamlining banking laws, streamlining immigration, and make it easier for the private sector to do what they do best. So, AK, with that, I'll yield my time. Thank you.
All right, very useful.
Let's see. Now I request Ambassador Sandhu to address us. I know we are running late, but Mr. Ambassador, please feel free to take as much time as you would like to. We all are happy to stay longer and hear your thoughts. Ambassador Sandhu, please. I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't live. I said, thank you, Mago Saab. I get your hint, and no, I want to, it was a great interaction today, and especially to hear all these views on strengthening India-US trade and investment cooperation, which of course is an important pillar of our strategic relationship, as I indicated earlier. You know, we take immense pride in the contribution of Indian origin professionals, entrepreneurs who came to the United States in pursuit of their dreams and have distinguished themselves across various fields. Your journeys are a source of inspiration to many young Indians. The current pandemic has presented us with new opportunities for collaboration. Our long-standing and robust partnership with the United States in the area of health and scientific research has further deepened during this crisis. Cooperation in healthcare, in pharma, in basic research, vaccines, diagnostics, devices, as I mentioned to the governor, is a major opportunity for India and carries great potential for collaboration with the United States. Clean energy is another priority for the government, where we have set an ambitious agenda. While India-US energy trade has grown in last few years, there's a great potential in clean energy cooperation too between our countries. In 2019-20, 22% of India's energy generation was from renewable resources. Today, a unit of solar power is cheaper than energy generated from coal. Home to world's largest solar park, around 50 solar parks of 40 GW are aimed to be established by 2022. Food processing, retail, electronics, of course, oil and natural gas are other focus areas for investment. Economic crisis is also an opportunity in terms of shifting supply chains. India has been a reliable partner in the global supply chain during the pandemic. As businesses look at de-risking supply chains, our objective is to attract private investment to spur economic growth and development. With a focus on recovery, our Prime Minister has announced an economic reforms cum stimulus package of $265 billion. Critical reforms have been introduced by the government to promote business and attract investment. The reforms focus on land, labor, liquidity, and laws. They include supply chain reforms for agriculture, rational tax system, simple and clear laws, capable human resource, and a strong financial system. These are long pending reform measures in critical sectors. India's huge domestic market, high skilled workforce, existing advantages in digital services, along with its competitive tax regime and low labor costs, make it an attractive investment destination. India is also the 7th largest R&D spender in the world, with $48.1 billion R&D spending, constituting 2.7% of the global share. US has traditionally been an important investment destination for Indian companies. The favorable business environment offered by various states in the US, as well as policies attracting Indian skilled professionals, have ensured a steady flow of Indian FDI into the US. At the same time, nearly every big American company has presence in India. In fact, two-way investment between India and United States has reached $60 billion in 2018. India and Texas have robust trade and investment. The two-way merchandise trade touched $13 billion in 2019. Texas has the largest presence of Indian companies in the US. Around 40 Indian companies have invested $9.5 billion in Texas, generating, as I indicated earlier, 17,500 jobs. There is close alignment of India and the United States energy interests, and our strategic energy partnership has been steadily strengthening. US has become an important source of oil and gas for India. In the last 4 years, our total energy trade has soared to nearly $20 billion US. Mutual investment in energy sector have also been an upswing. In the near future, we might even be importing cooking coal from United States. Energy sector, which includes, of course, oil and gas, oil field equipment, and services, is the primary industry for Texas companies in India. 3 Indian public sector undertakings in the sector, namely ONGC, Videsh Limited, Oil India Limited, GAIL Global USA, have presence in Texas, a clear indication of the importance of India-Texas energy partnership. In the post-COVID world, we will need concerted and focused efforts to advance remarkable business and people-to-people linkages between our two countries. We believe that the next stage of India-US relationship will be in areas where both sides can pursue win-win outcomes. We hope to see many fruitful India-US collaborations in the near future. I look forward to working with you all towards this endeavor and hope to meet you all in person when I get an opportunity to visit your wonderful state, Texas, in near future. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Sandhu, it's Dallas that you need to visit first.
Well, Mago Saab, in my last posting, you ensured that I only visited Dallas.
This is the 4th largest metro in the country with a GDP of 525 billion. So I know my friends in Houston don't like when I say these things, but there are more Indians in the Dallas metro than there are in Houston. Anyway, that's just we always have that lovely discussion. Before you leave, Consul General Mahajan would like to say a vote of thanks, and then our Chamber Chairman, Raj Kalyandar, will close today's program.
Thank you, Mago Saab. I take this opportunity to thank the US-India Chamber of Commerce in Dallas, Fort Worth, Mr. Ashok Mago, Mr. Raj Kalyandur, Neil, our panelists today, Anurag Jain, Mr. Satish Gupta ji, and Mr. Brent Ryan. And of course, sir, you and our ambassador to join us today. It's a great opportunity. This is as I mentioned earlier, this is the way we connect these days, but there are a lot of takeaways for us in this. We have had a very rich exchange of ideas. We build on all these ideas, and let me reassure you that all these go into a process where we will connect with the chamber, and we are already in close touch with you to build events in each of these focus areas, like Ambassador highlighted, in energy, in education, in skilling, and also in these niche areas. We have taken those ideas of the bubbles which Anurag mentioned, the 3 bubbles. I think that is again a very good input into it. And Satish ji, he mentioned about the oil and gas connect and the 3-way flow of trade and how we can build on it. And Brent Ryan on the reform areas, which Ambassador already in his remarks has highlighted, that India is already on a war footing to actually scale up our initiatives and our reforms. And I, sir, again, thank you for joining us today and the chamber, but also to lastly mention that we will continue this dialogue with Ambassador's guidance and keep requesting him for his presence, and also to closely connect with all of you for our events, which we are now drawing out a roadmap and a calendar. And lastly, of course, our prayers remain that we do it in the physical mode as early as possible when the pandemic is behind us. And also, the chamber has its own calendar where they do their various events. They were looking forward that you will be able to join their flagship event this year, and God willing, I'm sure things will normalize soon. But in the interim, please stay safe, and we will continue to keep you informed on how these events are being developed, and continue to take your thoughts and ideas to put more substance into them and to continue dialogues with this. So thank you once again, and I thank Ambassador on behalf of all of us for taking out time despite his busy schedule to join us today. And of course, earlier Governor also joined us, which really helps us. So over to you, Mago Saab, and to Raj, to Raj.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Consul General Mahajan. On behalf of our chamber and our members, Neil and AK, we would love to thank you sincerely, Governor Abbott, Ambassador Sandhu, Consul General Mahajan, Satish Gupta, Anurag Jain, Brent Ryan. We truly appreciate all of you sharing your thoughts and views with us today. This was very helpful. I love the aspects of collaboration, and we wish for everyone in this webinar to stay safe and healthy. Thank you for attending.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
I
you,
wanna
everybody.
add one thing. Given the changes to the H-1B program, we are hosting a special webinar tomorrow featuring 2 of our immigration attorneys who will be talking about the changes to the H-1B program and the visa programs. So if you have employees or if you have any questions about those changes, you can join us tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. A Zoom link has been sent out through the Chamber's newsletter. You can find it there. And also I wanted to invite you to continue to join us for our programs, not only today, but throughout the year. We will continue to offer insightful discussions and informative webinars going forward. And we have some great programming coming up. So I encourage you to stay informed through the Chamber's newsletter and join us wherever it is meaningful for you. Thank you again. And on behalf of the Chamber, please stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you with the Chamber at a future program in person. Thank you so much.